Ada for finally standing up to my overbearing mother-in-law? For years I tried to keep the peace. I bit my tongue, smiled through clenched teeth, and reminded myself that my mother-in-law Linda was just old-fashioned. But recently, I finally snapped. And now my husband and half his family are treating me like the villain. Let me give some background. My husband Jake is an only child, and his mother has always had a tight grip on him. From the beginning of our relationship, she made it clear that she didn't think I was good enough for her son. It started subtly, little comments about my cooking, how I dressed, how I ran our home. Then it escalated. At our wedding, she wore white. She told the florist to change my bouquet at the last minute because she thought red roses were too tacky. She even invited her friends, people Jake and I didn't know, without asking us. After we got married, she took it upon herself to check in constantly. She had a key to our house. Jake insisted it was just for emergencies, but she used it whenever she wanted. I'd come home from work and find her reorganizing my kitchen, throwing out unhealthy food, and lecturing me about how I should be keeping a better home for her son. She'd make passive-aggressive comments like, "Oh, when I was your age, I already had 2 kids and a spotless home." Things really went downhill when I had our first child. Linda acted like she was the mother. She criticized every parenting choice I made: formula feeding, sleep training, daycare. When I set boundaries, she ran straight to Jake, crying about how I was keeping her grandchild from her. Jake, being the peacekeeper, always told me to just let it go. "That's just how she is, babe. She doesn't mean any harm." Then came the breaking point. We hosted Thanksgiving this year for the first time. I spent days cooking, setting the table, and making sure everything was perfect. The second Linda walked in, she wrinkled her nose and said, "Oh honey, you tried." She then proceeded to remake the gravy because mine was too runny, criticized my turkey carving, and told my Sil that my pumpkin pie was store-bought quality. But the worst part? She took my 3-year-old daughter's plate and started feeding her mashed potatoes by hand, saying, "Mommy doesn't know how to make them like Nana does." That was it. I lost it. I said, "Linda, enough. You are a guest in my home, and if you can't respect me, you can leave." The room went silent. Linda teared up and whispered, "I was only trying to help." Then she grabbed her purse and stormed out. Jake was furious. He said I embarrassed his mother and overreacted. His family is now split. Some say I was right to stand up for myself, while others think I was cruel to an old woman who just wants to be involved. So, Ada for finally snapping at my mother-in-law after years of biting my tongue.